I just want to be clear. Are you saying Israel is pushing the president of the United States to cover up the Epstein files? You questioned who and what country is putting so much pressure on Trump to keep the Epstein files hidden. And
so let's just so people can see this. So here's what her tweet is. It says, this and the Epstein files is why I'm being attacked by President Trump. It really makes you wonder what is in those files and who and what country is putting so much pressure on him. I forgive him and I will pray for him to return to his original MAGA promises. It shows her and it shows Lindsey Graham, and she gets a rating of A. He gets a rating of F in Liberty Score, and also she gets zero money from AIPAC. Yeah.
You included a picture about donations from pro-Israel lobbying group AIPAC. What are you trying to say there?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's the question that many Americans are asking, especially when we saw information recently come out in these emails that the Oversight Committee that I serve on has released. And we saw Jeffrey Epstein with ties to Ehud Barak. We saw him making business deals with them, also business deals that involved the Israeli government, and seems to have led into their intel agencies. And I think the right question is to ask is, was Jeffrey Epstein working for Israel? And I'm proud to say I don't take money from AIPAC. I don't take money from any special group of people. I'm just representing my district and the American people. And so that's what I was referring to.
I just want to be clear. Are you saying Israel is pushing the president of the United States to cover up the Epstein files?
So Dana Bash, who pushes every single Israeli lie to manufacture consent for genocide in Gaza, is now taking umbrage at the suggestion that Israel possibly might be tied to Epstein and might be involved in the cover-up of the Epstein files. And who knows what the answer is there, in terms, if Israel is involved in the cover-up or not. But the point is, given that Jeffrey Epstein is all these documented ties to Israel, as Marjorie Taylor Greene mentioned there have been a number of disclosures on that front, including that a former an Israeli intelligence agent used to stay at Jeffrey Epstein's house in New York City. And Jeffrey Epstein was brokering deals for Israel and was very close to Ehud Barak, the former Israeli prime minister. These are fair questions to ask.
Right.
Especially given all the other shady ways Israel's involved in our politics, including by buying off politicians via AIPAC, and also via all the censorship we're facing on social media at the behest of Israel. So in a climate like that, whatever the actual facts are, these are fair questions to ask. But Dana Bash, who never hesitates to repeat whatever Israeli lie is put out to wage genocide, is taking offense at Marjorie Taylor Greene even raising these questions.
Yeah. A friend who's watching right now, by the way, just texted me that according to this drop site article, the Pentagon, there was a Pentagon trip, there was a tour of the White House and Pentagon for Ehud Barak and his grandchildren, which took place a few days later. The Pentagon trip was coordinated by Jeremy Bash, former chief of staff of the CIA and the Department of Defense, as well as the ex-husband of CNN host Dana Bash. So on some level, he appears in the Epstein files, her husband, Dana Bash's ex-husband. And
that's why Thomas Massey calls them the Epstein class. And yep. Dana Bash is a card-carrying member.
Yeah.
Hence her offense at Marjorie Taylor Greene raising questions about it. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And what evidence do you have that is the case?
I simply asked. I simply just.
By the way, again, if she had an Israeli, I've never heard her ask an Israeli spokesperson, exactly. What evidence do you have for this claim that you're using to justify the slaughter of tens of thousands of people? I've never heard that question asked of an Israeli spokesperson.
Yeah. And also, if she's so evidence-based, I would have loved to have asked her, as you kind of alluded to, Aaron, what evidence do you have that Hamas engaged in a mass rape campaign, systematic mass rape campaign? And what evidence, if she cared about evidence, she obviously would have retracted that claim that she made. But she doesn't.
Asked out loud, is there a foreign government? It could be any foreign government, but is a foreign government pushing to keep this covered up? Because people just don't understand the big fight against.
Well, you had AIPAC up there. It was pretty clear which government you were talking about.
That I'm questioning that government in particular and questioning any other foreign government.
Dana Bash is so overt about it. You know, she's so like, how dare you? It's not surprising. How dare you go after Israel? I mean, this is a woman who wears her bias on her sleeve big time. And remember, famously said to Pramila Jayapal when she dared to bring up civilian deaths of Palestinians in Gaza, she said, and that's terrible, but you don't see Israeli soldiers raping Palestinian women.
Okay, let's hear more from Marjorie Taylor Greene, who again is in a really, I think, refreshing way, being willing to, speak out against Trump, the dear leader of the Republican Party. And you don't see this happening very much on the Republican side. So here's more.
And I can disagree with the president at times, especially particularly this past Monday on the Marines' 250th anniversary, when he honored the new Syrian president, who is an Al-Qaeda terrorist and was wanted by our government for years with a $10 million bounty up until March of this year. I very much am against that. I think that was very hurtful to the great men and women who served over in the Middle East and were sent there, and many of them that were killed and injured and live with PTSD to this day from fighting Al-Qaeda. So there's things I disagree with, and I'm allowed to do so.
Well,
So she's referring there to the fact that the new Syrian president, Ahmed al-Shara, aka Mohammed al-Jalani, who's the founding leader of al-Qaeda in Syria, former deputy leader of ISIS, he visited the White House and received a very warm welcome. And this comes from a president, President Trump, who campaigned on Islamophobia, who constantly demonizes Muslim immigrants, whose supporters pushed the whole thing about Zahra Mamdani being a jihadist communist. So constantly trafficking in Islamophobic slurs. But yet, when the former leader of Al-Qaeda is now willing to play ball with the U.S. and is part of a regime change project that helped Israel, because Syria, under the previous government, under Bashar al-Assad, was part of the axis of resistance to Israel. And it was through Syria that groups like Hezbollah got weapons from Iran with which they could resist Israel. Now that has happened, now that there's been regime change, if you're even the former leader of Al-Qaeda and you're playing ball, then you're welcome at the White House. And so that's what she's referring to. And she's one of the very few people in Congress willing to call that out, that we're now willing to side with an Al-Qaeda offshoot because it serves the interests of U.S. Israeli hegemony.
Yeah, it's really crazy that she's that this is the person we have to turn to make some certain statements that, like, the Democrats should be and could be making,
including progressives, and I've got to say, including progressive media, which just has not covered the story accurately.
You mean CNN?
I don't mean CNN. No, as I've maybe mentioned a few times over the years. It's anyway, good for Marjorie Taylor Greene for speaking up about it. And maybe she can inspire other people to acknowledge the reality and what that whole war was about.